At 50 years old, I never imagined that I would find myself caught in a web of emotions so perplexing and confusing, but that's exactly what happened. It started with a simple, yet peculiar feeling, one that seemed to grow with every passing day. It was an unspoken connection, something beyond the typical mother-son bond. And as Christmas approached, this connection would evolve into something far more complex, leading to a moment that would forever alter the course of our lives. Ethan has always been a remarkable son, thoughtful, caring, dependable. I had always been proud of the young man he was becoming, but gradually, I began to notice something in him that stirred unfamiliar emotions within me. It was subtle at first. One afternoon, he returned from hanging out with friends. He was 20 years old now, and his fitted shirt revealed the dedication he'd put into his fitness. He had this radiant energy about him, and his smile lit up the entire room. That day, something inside me shifted. I couldn't place it at first, but it was there, a spark, an awakening I hadn't felt in years. I tried to dismiss it as a fleeting, trivial emotion, but it lingered, persistent and undeniable. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself more attuned to him than ever before. His voice, his gestures, even the way he casually ran his fingers through his hair. The warmth in his voice when he called out "Mom" from the other room seemed to stir something deep within me. I couldn't ignore it. I began to seek out reasons to spend more time with him. If he went to the store, I volunteered to join him. If he was studying in the living room, I'd find an excuse to stay nearby, folding laundry or sorting bills. I told myself I was just enjoying his company, but in my heart, I knew there was more to it. I longed to be near him, to feel his presence, to hear his voice. But with each passing day, guilt gnawed at me. How could I, a mother, feel this way about my own son? It didn't make sense. Yet when he walked into the room, all my doubts seemed to fade, if only for a moment. His energy filled the space, and for a fleeting instant, I could forget the turmoil inside me. As Christmas approached, these feelings only grew stronger. Decorating the tree, something I'd done every year for as long as I could remember, became a moment of strange joy. There was something different this year, something electric in the air. We worked together, hanging ornaments, draping the tree with lights, and I couldn't help but notice how close we were becoming, how much time we were spending together. One evening, while we were decorating the tree, I lost my balance and almost stumbled. Ethan reached out, his hands steadying me in an instant. His grip was firm, his body pressed against mine. And in that moment, time seemed to freeze. Our eyes met, and there was an unspoken understanding between us, something that neither of us dared to voice but that lingered in the air, heavy and charged. After that, I began seeing Ethan in a different light. Every word, every glance, every touch seemed to hold a new, deeper meaning. I knew I was crossing boundaries I'd never even imagined, but despite the overwhelming guilt, there was a part of me that didn't want to stop. I kept telling myself that it was harmless, just a fleeting fantasy. But deep inside I knew it wasn't. Christmas felt like the perfect time to confront what I had been feeling. I had no idea if Ethan shared these emotions, or if I was simply fooling myself. But I couldn't deny the intensity of what I was experiencing. This Christmas would be different, it had to be. As the days grew colder, and the streets of Mexico City filled with the crisp December air, the glow of Christmas lights flickered in the windows of nearby homes. People bustled through the streets, searching for last-minute gifts, while Ethan and I continued our preparations at home. We decorated the tree, wrapped presents, and I found new ways to include him in everything. Cooking the Christmas dinner, shopping for ingredients. Even the smallest tasks became opportunities for us to grow closer. One afternoon, while we were arranging the lights in the yard, Ethan paused and looked up at the sky. "You know, Mom, I've always loved Christmas with you. Everything just feels warmer, happier when we're together," he said, his words hitting me with a depth I hadn't expected. I smiled softly, my heart aching. "That's because you're my reason for making everything special, Ethan. Since your dad left, you've been my whole world," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. His eyes met mine, and for a brief moment, silence enveloped us. There was something unspoken between us, something more than words could express. It was as if the world around us faded away, leaving only the two of us. wrapped in the warmth of that shared understanding. As Christmas drew near, I could feel the weight of the decision I had made. The guilt was still there, lurking in the background, but it was accompanied by something stronger, an undeniable desire to express just how much Ethan meant to me. It was a feeling that had been growing for months, and now, with Christmas just around the corner, I couldn't shake the sense that this was the moment to confront it, to somehow find a way to communicate this overwhelming, unspoken love. In the days leading up to Christmas, we continued our routine small, intimate moments that only strengthened my resolve. The house was filled with the scent of roasting turkey, the sound of Christmas music in the background, and the quiet anticipation that something big, was about to happen. I couldn't predict how it would unfold, but I knew this Christmas would be one to remember. A Christmas that would change everything. I was dressed, wearing a fitted sweater that gently accentuated my curves, something I didn't often choose. As I stood before Ethan, waiting for his reaction, his words came swiftly. "You look great, Mom," he said, a simple compliment, but one that struck me deeply. It sparked a confidence in me I hadn't felt in years. "Thank you, my love," I replied, offering a smile that I hoped seemed casual, but one that carried a weight of emotions I struggled to hide. Ethan continued eating, oblivious to the whirlwind of thoughts racing through my mind. But I stayed there, watching him, admiring the man he had become, the confident young man I had raised, now standing before me. During those days leading up to Christmas, I began to prepare what would be his special gift. There was no shiny box, no grand ribbon to wrap it in, but I knew it was something that needed nothing more than the right moment to be given. Each night, before sleep claimed me, I replayed in my mind how I would give it to him. I wondered if he would understand, if he would feel the same, or if it was all just the fantasy of a woman who had spent too much time alone. The day before Christmas, Ethan suggested we bake cookies together, a tradition we hadn't shared since he was a child. We spent hours in the kitchen, laughing as flour floated through the air like snowflakes. At one point, as I wiped a bit of dough from his cheek, I felt time slow down. His smile was disarming, his eyes full of warmth, and the way he looked at me made me wonder. Maybe he too sensed the change in the air between us. That night, after he went to bed, I sat alone by the Christmas tree. The lights twinkled softly, casting a gentle glow across the room. The silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I knew I was about to cross a line, one that would forever change the course of our relationship. But I also knew that there was no turning back. The connection I felt with Ethan had become too strong to ignore. Christmas morning arrived, filling the house with a warmth I hadn't expected. Ethan hugged me tightly, wishing me a Merry Christmas with all the affection that had always defined him. As we prepared for the family dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that each passing moment was drawing me closer to the one I had envisioned. I watched him as we set the table, his laughter filling the room, his energy contagious. A wave of emotion swelled within me, overwhelming and all-consuming, but I pushed it aside. This was my chance to be honest about how I felt. The Christmas dinner unfolded with gentle joy. The few family members present exchanged jokes and old memories, while I sat at the head of the table, observing everything. My gaze kept returning to Ethan. He seemed to be enjoying the evening, as if it were just another gathering. But for me, every gesture, every smile of his was a reminder of the storm of emotions I carried inside. When dinner ended and our guests began to leave, I felt the moment drawing nearer. The plan was clear in my mind. Wait until everyone had gone, then finally have Ethan all to myself. As the last door closed and the sound of footsteps faded, the air in the house changed. It was just the two of us now. The silence was broken only by the gentle twinkle of the Christmas lights. "Mom, let me help you clean up," Ethan offered, approaching the table to clear the dishes. But I stopped him, placing my hand gently on his arm. "No, my love, I want to talk to you," I replied, my voice soft but steady. His expression shifted from his usual carefree demeanor to one of curiosity. Without a word, he followed me into the living room, where the Christmas tree and the remaining gifts created an intimate atmosphere. We sat on the couch, and for a moment, I gathered my thoughts, summoning the courage I needed. "Ethan, this Christmas, I want to give you something special. Something you can't receive from anyone else, I said. His expression was a mix of confusion and curiosity, but he stayed quiet, his gaze fixed on mine. Of course, Mom, he said, a smile tugging at his lips. Everything you do is always special. For a brief moment, doubt clouded my thoughts, but I knew this was it. There was no turning back. Ethan, since your dad left, you've become everything to me. You are my strength, my joy, my reason for being. But sometimes there are things I haven't told you. Things I've kept hidden, because I didn't know how to express them. I leaned forward, taking his hands in mine. I want you to know how much you mean to me. And I want this night to be unforgettable, because you deserve something no one else can give you. He frowned slightly, but he didn't pull his hands away. Mom, you've always been amazing to me, but I don't. I gently interrupted him, placing a finger over his lips. My heart raced in my chest, but there was no turning back. The moment was here. I moved closer to him, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath mix with mine. In his eyes, I saw surprise, confusion, and something else, something that gave me the courage to push forward. The air between us was thick with anticipation, and in a barely audible whisper, I said, "Merry Christmas, my love." Slowly, I leaned in, letting the glow of the tree and the warmth of the night speak for us. When our lips met, it felt like time froze, the world around us fading into nothingness. What began as a simple kiss transformed into something deeper, a connection that transcended any words, any boundaries. Under the twinkling lights of the tree, we shared a moment unlike any other, a moment that would forever bond us in a way nothing else could. When the kiss ended, we sat together on the couch, wrapped in the soft light of Christmas decorations, in a silence that spoke volumes of the new understanding between us. Mom, Ethan whispered, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and something else, something close to acceptance. I could have never imagined this. I smiled, kissing his forehead. Sometimes the most important things aren't planned. They just happen, and what matters is what we do with them. In the days that followed, life seemed to return to normal. Our routine resumed, but there was a quiet complicity between us now, a shared understanding that no one else could comprehend. Every glance, every smile we shared carried the weight of that night, and the bond we had forged. Reflecting on it all, I can only say one thing. Following my heart was the most courageous and risky decision I've ever made. Though many might judge me, I know that this Christmas, I didn't just give Ethan a gift. I gave myself the freedom to love without reservations, and to discover that sometimes, the rules the world imposes have no place in the deepest feelings of our souls. This is just the beginning. The adventure doesn't end here. Like and subscribe to Cheater's Confessions to continue exploring the most passionate and unexpected stories. The journey has only just begun.